This short screencast is entitled Using the Best Tools for the Job, How to Judge the Quality of Resources. When you do research into a topic, it always involves using resources of some kind. Usually in the context of seminary, it's going to be secondary sources that are about the biblical text that help us work through our thesis. But a researcher is responsible to properly use the best resources available. So the goal of this video is to give you some guidelines on what constitutes good resources and how to judge the quality of what you come across. In short, there are three things that you need to consider. Whether a work has been reviewed, how it was published, and the depth of scholarly work that's evident in that resource itself. Let's take the first question. Was the work reviewed? Many scholarly works go through a process of review before their publication. This is especially true of journal articles that oftentimes have to go to an editorial board, but it can also be true of other publications like books in a series that are oftentimes reviewed by a series editor, and then also scholarly monographs that might also be reviewed by an editor or even a group of editors. The point is that work that has been peer-reviewed has been reviewed before publication by other scholars in that field. And so that helps ensure good standards of scholarship. So you should prefer works that have been peer-reviewed or have some type of editing control during publication, which is going to be indicated by some type of editor that's attached to the work or perhaps attached to the series that that work is in. The second question is, how was the work published? Although self-publishing is all the rage in fiction and other non-scholarly works, this is not necessarily a good thing with scholarly materials. Traditional publishing houses are able to provide editing help before publication, both in terms of the language that's used, typos and things of that nature, but also in terms of the scholarly content. And some publishers are as committed to publishing high-quality scholarship as the scholars are. It's really a partnership between the scholar and the publishing house. So you should prefer works that have been published through traditional publishing houses rather than those that have been self-published online or through Amazon or some other means. The third question is, does it show evidence of good scholarly work? The final consideration is the evidence of scholarly acumen that's shown in the work itself. For example, think of the things that your professors ask you to do in your research papers to show that you've done good work. The same things would apply to people who write books or other resources you might use in your research. Does the author properly cite resources they have used? Does the author reference prior discussions or other appropriate support for the assertions they make in their work? Does the author make logical arguments that are appropriate to the evidence that they present? One general question that helps me is, if you wanted to dig into this issue yourself, does this author help you do that by showing you what they have done, who they have referred to, the arguments they have made? Or are they a scholarly dead end? Do they just make assertions without any evidence to back them up? So you should prefer works that give evidence of good scholarly method and logical thinking. In short, you ought to think about scholarship as a community effort. It's the result of a community working together to present good ideas to the world for consideration. If an author shows evidence of being a lone ranger, you should be very wary. That they might have a great nugget of wisdom, but there could be lots of cruft along the way that you have to sift through. But if an author writes in conjunction with the scholarly community by properly referencing other scholarly works and by publishing through a peer-reviewed process and by showing that in their writing, they, in a sense, earn a hearing. You may end up rejecting their assertions, but at least you will know why, because you will be able to see their train of thought and trace their argument and see the sources they used, and that's the sign of a good resource that benefits your research.